What if one of history's most famously daring acts was also one of its most misunderstood?
Yeah, I mean, we all have this picture in our heads, right?
Exactly.
Right.
But what if that image is, only half the story? Maybe even less.
Mm.
Today we're doing a deep dive into Lady Godiva. Legend, reality, the whole thing.
Should be interesting. There's a lot to unpack there.
Definitely. So our mission here is to really peel back those layers. History, legend. We want to find the real Godiva.
That was her actual Anglo-Saxon name, Godiva.
Right, gift of God. We want to see how her story changed over time and look at her impact on art, culture, even like Coventry's whole identity.
And we've got quite a bit to draw on chronicles, the Doomsday Book, articles, cultural stuff.
Yeah, good stack. The goal is to pull out the key bits, give you a really rounded and honestly pretty fascinating picture of her.
Agreed. She's a compelling figure, even before the legend.
Okay, so let's start there. Before the famous ride. Who was the real Lady Godiva? The woman, Godiva.
Well, she was a late Anglo-Saxon noblewoman, high status, married to Leofric, who was the Earl of Mercia, a very powerful guy.
And she lived quite a while, right? Died sometime between 1066 and 1086.
Yeah, probably into her mid-50s. She actually outlived Leofric. He died in 1057.
Now, something that really jumped out at me. She was one of the very few Anglo-Saxons, and apparently the only woman, to stay a major landowner right after the Norman conquest. That's huge, isn't it? How unusual was that, especially for a woman then, after 1066?
Oh, it was incredibly rare, almost unheard of, really. The Normans usually, kicked out the old Anglo-Saxon elite.
It's their land.
Exactly. So for her to hold on to such a significant property, it tells you a lot about her influence, maybe her political skill, or just the sheer respect she commanded.
It kind of pushes back against that idea of the Normans just steamrolling everyone, doesn't it?
It really does. It shows she had some serious clout, a unique position.
Absolutely. Makes you wonder about her personality. And it wasn't just land, either. She was known for being very pious, very generous.
Extremely. She and Leofric gave a lot to the church, religious houses, especially the Benedictine monastery at Coventry.
Leofric founded that in 1043, but didn't a later writer, Roger of Wendover, say Godiva was the one who really pushed for it?
That's right, yeah. Wendover, writing in the 13th century, calls her the persuasive force.
So, this generosity, was it just about faith, or was it also maybe a bit strategic? Securing the family's position.
I think it's almost always both back then.
Right.
Sure, genuine piety was key, but funding monasteries, giving gifts, it built alliances, it created legacies, it established centers of power and learning loyal to you.
Right, and it ensured people prayed for you.
For generations, yeah. It was definitely a smart move, socially and politically, as well as spiritually. Solidified their standing.
And these weren't small gifts. We're talking serious wealth. She gave Coventry loads of precious metalwork by some famous goldsmith, Manig.
And that necklace valued at 100 marks of silver.
Just try to imagine how much that was worth then.
An absolute fortune, like the annual income of several wealthy nobles combined, perhaps. A huge amount.
She also gave another necklace to Evesham for a statue. And even St. Paul's in London got a fancy gold-fringed vestment, a chasuble.
Yeah, they were genuinely some of the most generous donors of the whole Anglo-Saxon period before the Normans came.
It's a shame so much of it got melted down later by Norman bishops.
It is. But their reputation lasted. They were even remembered in this mortuary roll from St. Vitalis of Savigny in 1122. Basically, a list of benefactors that monasteries shared across Europe to pray for. Shows their reach.
But even with someone this well documented, there's still, historical puzzles, right?
Oh, always. William of Malmesbury, a big 12th century historian, wrote about her will.
Ah, yes, the prayer beads thing.
Exactly. He mentions a circlet of precious stones threaded on a cord. She used to count her prayers. She wanted it placed on a statue of Mary.
And that's supposedly the oldest reference we have to something like a rosary.
That's the thinking, yeah. Yeah. Pretty amazing little detail about her personal faith.
And where she was buried. There's some disagreement there, too. Evesham or Coventry.
Yeah, the Evesham Chronicle says Evesham, but the Oxford Dictionary of National Biography leans towards Coventry with her husband. Seems more likely, maybe.
And that signature on the Spalding Charter? I, the Countess Godiva. Probably fake.
Most historians think that charter is spurious, yeah. Though there might be a real family link to someone mentioned in it, Thorold of Bucknell. So complex.
But putting it all together, the historical record shows this incredibly powerful, devout, influential woman. Landowner, benefactor, Major player.
Absolutely. Way more than just the one sensational story she's famous for. Her actions shaped the world around her, left a real strategic mark. A powerhouse, like you said.
Which makes the contrast with the legend even more striking, doesn't it?
Totally. How do you get from that historical figure to the famous ride?
Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting. How did that story pop up? Let's dive into the legend itself.
Okay, first key thing. The story of the nude ride doesn't appear until the 13th century. Roger of Wendover, again, in his Flores Historiarum.
So like 200 years after she died.
Yep. 2 full centuries, which is why most modern historians are pretty skeptical about it actually happening. There's just no earlier mention, unlike her church donations, which are well documented.
Right. The silence is kind of deafening. Still, you have to ask why it emerged then in the 13th century. What was going on?
That's a great question. Maybe it fulfilled some narrative need at the time. But okay, the classic story, the one we mostly know.
Go on.
Lady Godiva feels sorry for the people of Coventry because her husband Leofric is taxing them too harshly. She keeps begging him to lower the taxes.
Yeah, he's stubborn.
Right. So he finally says, probably thinking she'll never do it, okay, ride naked through the town market on your horse and I'll grant your request.
And she calls his bluff.
She does. But first she tells everyone in town to stay inside, lock their doors, shut their windows. Then she rides through covered only by her long hair.
Okay, but then there's Peeping Tom. He wasn't in that original 13th century version.
Nope. Zero mention. He comes in much later. A later addition to the legend.
Usually a tailor, right, who can't resist looking.
Exactly. He disobeys the order, peeps through a window or keyhole, and bam, struck blind. Or sometimes dead.
And that's where we get the phrase, Peeping Tom.
That's its origin, yeah. It seems to have been a really strong piece of local Coventry folklore.
Because the first published accounts are 18th century, but there's that wooden statue of him. Potentially 17th century?
Yeah, possibly from Charles II's time. It used to be part of the big Coventry Fair, and the first written mention of Peeping Tom by name is even later, 1773, in the town records.
About giving the statue a new wig and paint.
Right. Shows how embedded he was in the local tradition. They were literally maintaining Peeping Tom.
And I saw that weird note about a pre-1700 letter linking the peeper to the Greek myth of Actaeon, who saw Diana bathing, calling him Action, her groom.
Yeah, that's a fascinating, if slightly obscure connection. Shows how myths can layer and borrow over time.
So even the ride itself changed over time. Wendover's first version, just riding through the market with 2 knights. No nudity mentioned.
Correct. Just riding through the assembled crowd attended by knights. Very different feel.
Then you get Richard Grafton, the Coventry MP in the 1560s.
Right. He puts forward this modified version, says Leofric had already removed all taxes except one on horses.
Ah, so her ride was specifically about the horse tax.
That's Grafton's version. And he does include the bit about everyone having to stay indoors and shutter the windows. Some think it's a sort of cleaned up Protestant take on the story.
Interesting. And the Percy Folio, around 1650, follows that version too.
Pretty much, yeah. The horse tax, people staying indoors, which leads to the big question.
How naked was she supposed to be? And what did it all symbolize?
Exactly. Because while the popular idea is completely nude, covered only by hair, that's debated.
It seems so unlikely for an 11th century noblewoman, even as a protest.
Highly unlikely. A more, let's say, plausible theory connects it to the public processions penitents sometimes made. Penitents might process publicly wearing only a shift, a basic sleeveless white undergarment. For a high-status woman like Godiva to appear in public like that, stripped of all her fine clothes and jewels.
Oh, it'd still be shocking.
Yeah.
A huge statement of humility or protest.
Absolutely. And perhaps that real act of appearing in just her shift got exaggerated over the centuries into total nudity. It keeps the drama, but fits the period better.
That makes a lot more sense, actually. But what other ideas are out there about why the legend developed this way?
Oh, loads. Some see it reflecting ideas about female power and sensuality in the 12th century. Others think it was crucial for Coventry's identity, their founding story of Justice Won.
Could it have been negative? Like Puritan propaganda trying to make the pious Godiva seem scandalous?
That's one theory, yeah. Turn her piety on its head. Or maybe the opposite, a story invented purely to draw pilgrims and their money to the monastery she helped found in Coventry. A bit of medieval marketing.
Wow, okay. Anything else?
Some even connect it to older, possibly pagan fertility rituals. Godiva as a sort of May Queen figure. The legend is just so flexible, it can absorb all these interpretations.
It really is amazing, a story that can mean so many different things to different people over time. So, fact or fiction aside, her story has left this massive cultural footprint.
Undeniably.
Let's look at Coventry itself. That Godiva procession started way back in 1678 for the town fair, right? Ran to the 1960s.
And often caused a stir. Rumors about the woman playing Godiva actually being nude.
Yeah, I read about a bishop complaining in 1854 about a Birmingham whore playing the part.
Always controversial. And then you get that 1974 play where she did appear naked but on a motorbike.
Brilliant. Just keeps evolving. And Peeping Tom is still around Coventry, too.
Oh, yeah. The wooden statue, maybe St. George in armor, actually is in a shopping center now. And the clock in Broadgate has an animated Tom watching Godiva ride every hour.
He's part of the furniture.
Completely. And you've got Prue Peretta, who's been embodying Godiva since the 80s, doing community work, peace pageants, got an MBE for it.
Shows a positive power the figure still has, even when the council considered dropping her image back in '99.
The public outcry kept her there. She ended up on the New City logo in 2000, and that giant puppet, Godiva Awakes, in 2010.
Right, the 32-foot one powered by cyclists.
You can't easily erase a symbol that powerful. It's just too tied into the city's story of justice and defiance.
And beyond Coventry, the art. Adam Vidnord's 1586 painting, commissioned by the city, apparently quite voluptuous.
Yeah, leaning into the sensual side early on.
Yeah.
Then John Collier's famous pre-Raphaelite one from 1897, very different vibe.
More romantic, maybe.
Modest, even.
Exactly. Vulnerable but noble. It's now in the Herbert Art Gallery in Coventry. Both paintings really show artists filtering the story through their own time's lens.
And sculptures, too. Marble ones, bronze ones, and stained glass, even coins. Yeah, that 14th century window fragment with the inscription, I Lyrically Frick for the love of thee doe, make Coventry toll-free, plus those 18th century condor tokens, local halfpennies showing her, and woven silk pictures.
She pops up everywhere. Literature, too. Tennyson's famous poem, obviously.
Godiva, 1842, very focused on her virtue.
But then Dr. Seuss did one. The Seven Lady Godivas?
Yep, in 1939. Apparently quite humorous and maybe not quite for kids. Lots of novels, too, right up to recent years.
And music. Classical overtures, Peter Gordon's 60s pop hit, Lady Godiva.
The Velvet Underground's Lady Godiva's Operation, much darker take.
And Queen. Don't Stop Me Now, passing by like Lady Godiva.
It's incredible, the range. And film, of course. Silent films, Maureen O'Hara playing her in the 50s.
Lady Godiva of Coventry, 1955. Right up to comedies like Lady Godiva, Back in the Saddle in 2007.
Drama, romance, satire, she fits them all.
So if you step back and look at all this, the sheer amount and the variety of how she's shown in culture, it's just immense.
It really proves the power of a great story, doesn't it? Her image keeps getting reshaped, piety, protest, sensuality, defiance, reflecting whatever values or anxieties are current.
From high art to pop songs to city branding, she's incredibly adaptable.
It highlights how much we seem to need these kinds of figures, these narratives about sacrifice and courage.
So quite a journey. From the historical Gajufu, powerful, pious Anglo-Saxon noblewoman to the ever-evolving legend of Lady Godiva on her ride.
A remarkable transformation, yeah. One woman becoming this canvas for centuries of storytelling.
From real history to enduring myth. It's been fascinating tracing that path.
Absolutely. A great example of how history and legend intertwine.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What does the persistence, the sheer adaptability of this Lady Godiva legend really tell us about, well, us? About our need for stories mixing justice, defiance, maybe that little touch of scandal.
Or maybe about how we constantly reimagine historical figures to talk about things that matter now. Power, protest, how people are seen, public perception.
Definitely something to chew on long after this deep dive.